Imagine this. A dazzling Hollywood actress from California, fiercely independent and used to making her own rules, suddenly finds herself at the heart of one of the world's oldest and most rigid monarchical institutions, the British royal family. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding seemed like a fairy tale, reminiscent of Cinderella movies. But very quickly, the fairy tale turned into a story that shocked millions of people around the world. What really happened? Why did the press, initially fascinated by her, turn into one of the Duchess of Sussex's most cruel critics? And what unspoken, sometimes humiliating rules of life behind royal walls await someone who dared to enter this world? Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, was born, as is well known, in America, where freedom, practicality, and comfort are valued above all else. Therefore, after her wedding to Prince Harry in prudish England, Meghan had a very difficult time. As is known, the actress honestly tried to perform her royal duties, but they proved to be beyond her capabilities. Ultimately, Meghan and Harry left Britain, causing strong anger among the British public. The Sussexes' departure and their scandalous interview with an American journalist were considered by many to be one of the most serious betrayals in the history of the English monarchy. Of course, Harry and Meghan's flight to Canada, and then to the United States, was caused by many reasons. Meghan, for example, was constantly compared to Kate, and clearly not in the Duchess of Sussex's favor. The press also often criticized Prince Harry's wife for various other reasons. The actress did not get along with the public's beloved Princess Kate, and she found it difficult to develop the right line of behavior with the servants in the royal palace. And of course, among the reasons why Meghan and Harry left Britain was the need to strictly follow royal protocol in their behavior in public, clothing, jewelry, food, etc. The need to comply with traditions, of course, greatly restricts personal freedom. And this apparently greatly displeased Meghan, who had lived her whole life in the United States and was accustomed to Hollywood rules. Subsequently, the Duchess of Sussex said that some of the rules of the royal palace seemed to her not just strange, but completely meaningless. Perhaps Meghan Markle was able to come to terms with some traditions while living in England, but some rules apparently especially irritated her. In any case, the Duchess violated such rules very often, shocking the puritanical English public. Also, some traditions, in all likelihood, were simply extremely difficult for Meghan to get used to. And the Duchess violated these rules purely out of absent-mindedness. For example, newspaper reporters quickly noticed that Meghan often closed the door behind herself when getting out of the car. This seemed strange and unacceptable to representatives of the English media. The fact is that, according to protocol, the door should be closed by the driver or assistant for a lady belonging to the royal family after she gets out of the car. The Duchess apparently did not quite understand why such luxury existed and why it was needed at all, and therefore purely mechanically often violated this rule. Meghan also automatically crossed the royal protocol on other occasions. In addition to car doors, this also concerned, for example, the Duchess of Sussex's pockets. Photographers often captured Meghan holding her hands in her pockets. Meanwhile, royal protocol prohibits this. Some admirers of the royal family were so annoyed by Meghan's habit of putting her hands in her pockets that in social networks, etc., they recommended that the Duchess choose clothes without any pockets at all. According to fans of the royal family, this would help Meghan wean herself off of this unacceptable habit. Another tradition that Meghan could never get used to was the mandatory wearing of pantyhose in public. According to the rules of the royal family, women belonging to the royal family should in no case appear before their subjects with bare legs. Following this tradition was difficult for Meghan, apparently also because of her many years of habit. The Duchess, as is known, was born in sunny California, where most likely no one ever wore pantyhose. Later, Meghan became an actress and began to follow Hollywood rules in her wardrobe. In Hollywood, as is well known, it is not customary to wear pantyhose at all. But nevertheless, especially at first, Meghan still tried to adapt her wardrobe to royal standards. The Duchess appeared in public in pantyhose quite often, but at the same time she still made mistakes that irritated the English. For example, from time to time, Meghan, according to the British, wore pantyhose that were too light. Social media users were surprised by the Duchess's choice and recommended that she seek help from a stylist who could help her choose the right pantyhose to match her dark skin. The English believed that a dark color of pantyhose would make it possible not to attract so much attention to the Duchess's legs, as it happened when she chose light ones. Meghan also often wore black pantyhose, and this color in the royal family, as is known, is prohibited. Black clothes, including pantyhose, can only be worn at mourning events. In addition to Meghan, Kate Middleton also often violates the ban on black pantyhose in the royal family, as is well known. However, the public forgives the Princess of Wales for this. Black pantyhose have simply become part of Kate's style. The public never criticizes the princess for them, perhaps because her style is impeccable in every other way. Meghan, on the other hand, was criticized for black pantyhose more than once, and perhaps this greatly annoyed the Duchess. Why can Kate, but I can't, Meghan most likely thought. Since from childhood and youth Meghan, as a true American, valued comfort in clothes and accessories most of all, it was difficult for her to follow royal protocol regarding handbags. Ladies of the English royal family, as is known, most often appear in public with small, elegant clutches. These handleless handbags are carefully selected to match the color of the outfit. Royal protocol welcomes clutches as well as bags with short handles. Elizabeth II, as is known, preferred the latter option. The Queen most often appeared before her subjects with a handbag with short handles. Elizabeth carried in the bag, among other things, a special hook with a suction cup. She hung the bag on this hook during events and meals, if necessary. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, was most likely greatly annoyed by this tradition. It is known that even at the time when she was still performing her royal duties, the Duchess of Sussex preferred to wear bags across her shoulder. This option apparently seemed much more comfortable to Meghan. The English, however, decided that a British Duchess with a bag over her shoulder looked strange. English royal protocol, as is known, prohibits open shoulders in public clothing. It was difficult for Meghan to get used to this for the same reason that she did not like pantyhose. In hot California, dresses and blouses with open shoulders are normal. Therefore, Meghan often wore exactly such clothes in England. Dresses with open shoulders, of course, look stylish and fashionable, and Meghan looked very good in such outfits. But such dresses violate protocol, and because of them, the Duchess of Sussex was also often criticized. In addition to her wardrobe, Meghan was most likely annoyed by many of the royal family's rules regarding food. For example, it is known that British royal protocol prohibits members of the royal family from eating seafood during official tours. It was apparently not easy for Meghan to come to terms with this. Already after the Sussexes left Britain, Meghan admitted that she simply adores seafood. Therefore, the unspoken ban on such food, which can cause poisoning and let down a member of the royal family at the most inopportune moment, the Duchess most likely also violated. Prince William and Princess Catherine recently moved to a spacious house called Forest Lodge, located in Windsor Great Park. This is an 8-bedroom mansion with extensive gardens, lakes, and tennis courts, which has become their new family nest after living in the cozy Adelaide cottage. The move symbolizes a fresh start for the family after a difficult period associated with Catherine's recovery, and emphasizes their desire for a peaceful life away from the bustle of the city. Interestingly, this house, according to some rumors, may have been of interest to other members of the royal family, including Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. At one time, they considered various options for residences in the UK, dreaming of a spacious and secluded place for their family. Forest Lodge, with its historical charm and amenities, could have become an ideal dream home for many, but now it belongs to the Waleses, who financed the purchase and renovation from personal funds without any burden on the budget. For Meghan Markle, this stage in the life of the royal family may evoke mixed feelings. Living in California, in Montecito, she focused on her projects, including working on brands and charity, as well as raising children, Archie and Lilibet. According to experts, Meghan has always strived for a comfortable and independent life, and her choice to step away from royal duties allowed her to create her own world. Perhaps the news of William and Catherine's move evokes in her nostalgia for British roots or reflections on how things could have turned out differently. Meghan has repeatedly shared in interviews that she values freedom and the opportunity to live by her own rules, away from strict protocols. Her current stage is a time of growth, where she balances family and career, working on books, podcasts, and other initiatives. Despite the distance, she maintains contact with loved ones and focuses on the positive, avoiding public comments about the family's internal affairs. This shows her maturity and ability to adapt to change. Overall, William and Catherine's move to Forest Lodge emphasizes how each member of the family finds their own path to happiness. For Meghan, this may be a reminder of the past, but also an inspiration to continue building her story. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle have been married for 7 years, and over these years, they have experienced many different events. After the wedding, which took place against the wishes of relatives, Meghan began to settle into the role of an English duchess, and Harry helped her with this. However, Meghan's attempts to become a full and respected member of the royal family proved unsuccessful. Markle's overly energetic character ultimately did not allow her to become part of the royal family. Meghan often violated protocols and traditions, conflicted with servants, secretaries, the Princess of Wales, Camilla, etc. Born in America, where life flows completely differently than in measured, puritanical England, Meghan never managed to fit into the prim atmosphere of Buckingham Palace. Ultimately, Harry and his wife left Britain, renouncing their royal duties and royal upkeep. The Sussexes settled in the USA in Santa Barbara, in their own huge mansion. At first, things went well for them, including financially. Meghan and Harry received money mainly for revealing the dirty secrets of the royal family, and in fact, they were simply airing their dirty laundry in public. Other members of the royal family, of course, perceived the Sussexes' behavior as a real betrayal. Everyone was especially amazed by Harry's behavior. The prince quickly quarreled with both relatives and friends. At the same time, Harry's character, according to people close to him, changed beyond recognition. Previously, the prince was a fairly simple, rough, and straightforward person. In this, Harry was somewhat similar to his grandfather, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. The prince, as is known, was the most reliable support of Elizabeth II throughout his life, although he often rebelled against palace restrictions and sometimes put his wife in an awkward position, making public rough remarks about politicians, stars, and even entire states. Prince Harry, after his marriage, according to those around him, lost his spontaneity, simplicity, and even his cheerful disposition. And the prince changed, of course, precisely under the influence of his wife, Meghan Markle. Harry's character changed significantly under the influence of his wife. At the same time, some of the changes were for the better, others for the worse. Before his marriage, Prince Harry, as is known, led a fairly cheerful and riotous life. The Queen's youngest grandson visited clubs, met with girls, and had fun at parties that he or his friends threw. Those around him loved Harry for his kindness, responsiveness, and generosity. After his marriage, having quarreled with his friends, Harry began to lead a secluded life in the company of only Meghan and his children. The prince ceased to be a generous and spontaneous person, and according to many acquaintances, he turned into an ordinary whiner who was dissatisfied with everything and everyone. And Harry's friends and close ones blame Meghan for such negative changes in Harry's character. The ambitious American never really managed to understand the royal traditions and perceived many of them almost as a personal insult. For example, Meghan really did not like the fact that Harry would forever be assigned a secondary role in the royal family. For some reason, Meghan decided that this was unfair. The Duchess did not care that the first sons in European royal families were always considered heirs, and all subsequent sons were only ordinary members of the royal family. And under the influence of his wife, dissatisfaction with his position in the royal family, apparently, Harry also began to experience. It is believed that even his book Spare was written by the prince under the influence of his wife. In that book, Harry, as is known, expressed a huge number of complaints to his royal relatives. At the same time, many of his grievances looked clearly far-fetched, inspired by the influence of his wife. It is known that before his marriage, Harry had no complexes about the fact that he was not the eldest prince in the family, and that he was not destined to inherit the English throne. Harry was very friendly with his brother William and respected his wife, Kate Middleton. It is known that the younger prince accompanied the Cambridges everywhere, which is why Harry, Kate, and William were even called an inseparable trio. While single, Harry lived in Nottingham Cottage, a small house located on the grounds of Kensington Palace. The prince was absolutely happy with life in this cottage. Harry was not at all offended or embarrassed that his brother with his wife and children occupied one of the best and most luxurious of multiple apartments within Kensington Palace itself. Everything changed after his marriage to Meghan. After the wedding, Harry reportedly brought his wife to Nottingham Cottage. Meghan absolutely disliked this house. The Duchess found the cottage too small and uncomfortable, and Meghan, of course, didn't keep silent about it. Meghan felt that she and Harry were being overlooked because Kate and William lived in luxury, while she and Harry were forced to live in a small house. Meghan didn't care that the Cambridges themselves had lived in the same small cottage immediately after their wedding. They only moved to the palace after the birth of their first child. In any case, under Meghan's influence, Harry began to make demands on the Queen. As a result, Elizabeth was forced to relocate the Sussexes to a larger cottage. Ultimately, the dissatisfaction with his position, which Meghan imposed on Harry, became the cause of his quarrels with his father, the Queen, his stepmother, and his brother. Under his wife's influence, the prince began to feel overlooked, which ultimately led to his complete break with the British royal family, BRF. Thus, Harry's character, under Meghan's influence, changed for the worse. From a cheerful guy, the prince turned into a gloomy whiner, accusing his relatives of every imaginable sin. According to those around him, there was very little positive in Meghan's influence on Harry's character. Mostly, it's just that the prince became a more serious person. Previously, Harry was known to get into various scrapes from time to time and become involved in scandals that shamed the BRF. After marrying Meghan, Harry settled down and became an exemplary family man. According to acquaintances, after the prince tied his fate to Meghan Markle, not only his character changed, but also many of his habits. The prince began to lead a much more Americanized lifestyle. For example, Harry used to pay little attention to his diet. Of course, the prince did not eat foods prohibited in the royal family. However, Harry did not restrict himself in anything else. Now, together with Meghan, the prince prefers a healthy diet and follows all sorts of diets. For example, Harry, like Meghan herself, only eats gluten-free products and watches the number of calories in his food. In the morning, Harry drinks warm water with lemon to improve digestion or a green smoothie. Also, Harry, according to friends and acquaintances, started doing yoga. And this is not surprising. After all, Meghan Markle has been practicing yoga since childhood. Meghan's mother, Doria, as is known, was a yoga instructor for a long time. A lot has changed in Harry's character and life after meeting Meghan. The Duchess quarreled the prince with his family and friends, apparently hoping for a freer and more secure life without special obligations to society and the need to perform burdensome, routine, and uninteresting royal duties. At first, it happened exactly as Meghan wanted. The Sussexes received a lot of money and could live in luxury in their expensive mansion in Santa Barbara. But now the supply of scandalous revelations from Meghan and Harry about the royal family has dried up. Sponsors are losing interest in the scandalous family. Accordingly, the Sussexes' cash flow is also drying up. It may soon happen that Meghan and Harry simply have nothing to live on. What the Sussexes will do in this case is, of course, unknown, but many fans of the BRF assume that Harry himself may even have to return to England and try to reconcile with his relatives in order to start receiving royal support again. In this case, according to many Britons, Meghan will most likely remain in the United States. She is unlikely to want to return to Britain. After all, the British will never forgive her for the harm and offences she has caused to members of the royal family, including the elderly Elizabeth II.